I'm going to post this to the middle school and high school teams. And I will email it out to my department heads and I'll have them forward it on. All right. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going. All right, so today, keeping with our academic department's unfinished learning commitments, we are going to be hitting on high impact instructional strategies, with that strategy being engagement and reciprocal teaching in the science classroom. Our 2021-2022 science department priorities are: teachers will use phenomenon to drive instruction in the classroom and move instruction from one dimension to 3 dimensions. And those are the 2 priorities that we're going to be hitting on today. This is our balanced science instruction document. You can find this on the academic website underneath science, but this is how we promote scientific inquiry and effective instruction here in COV. You can see that we have the 3 dimensions represented with our science and engineering practices, and that's what the students are going to be doing. And then we're going to connect that with the cross-cutting concepts, which cut across all of the science disciplines. And then we're going to be hammering in those scientific foundational skills in the classroom with hands-on investigations and labs. All right, so let's talk about reciprocal teaching. If you're not familiar with reciprocal teaching, it is an engagement strategy that a lot of research has been done on. What exactly it is, it contains 4 steps: summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. It's reciprocal in that teachers and students take turns leading the dialogue about the text in question. So you see the word text right there. So that means students are going to be doing some reading with a focused science text in the class. They're going to ask questions following each of the 4 steps. So the teacher can model those steps and then kind of step back and scaffold and reduce his or her involvement. So it's kind of like a gradual release. And students are going to take the lead as they go through the 4 steps after they read a segment of the text. Oh no. Oh no, 343, that's not good. Okay, so what does the research say? Why is reciprocal teaching a good strategy to use? This is a whole bunch of research right here, but basically, it's saying that reciprocal teaching activates each part of the brain because we're listening, we're reading, and we're speaking. And then we're actually teaching someone else about it. So the act of teaching a lesson activates all regions of our brains. So if you really want to learn something, you have to teach it. Let's see how we can utilize this strategy in science class. So I have found a teacher that utilizes reciprocal teaching in science in her classroom. And this is an 11-minute video, but we're going to stop during certain parts and have kind of a discussion, or I'm going to highlight a few things, and you can see exactly how you can implement this in your classroom. If you guys can't hear, please just let me know.
Reciprocal teaching started out in just the literacy classrooms here. I work very closely with my collaborating teacher and my team teacher who does ELA and social studies. She had shared with me some of the discussions that they had had, how it worked there. So I worked with my ELA and social studies counterpart, and they had done reciprocal teaching in their room. So I wanted to try it in science as well, because she said their discussions were just so awesome. So then once I took it and implemented in my room, she would come in and help me share what she had done, and then I would take that and kind of try to tweak it to what would work for me and science and my kids.
Reciprocal teaching is a research-based strategy that has a high impact on student comprehension. Reciprocal teaching was a really nice way for us to approach ELA, social studies, and science together and think as a group, how do we really teach into the texts of our disciplines, and how do we teach kids how to access them? It gave us a common language around reading.
I always start off the lesson with a do now, which is either a see, think, wonder, where the kids see an image on the board, they make observations, write any questions they have based on what it is, and then we have a discussion about that.
So this actually reminds me of starting out with phenomenon, right? She calls it something different. She calls it a see, think, wonder, but it's the same concept. We're introducing a phenomenon video with our students and having a discussion afterwards, and they're coming up with questions. So she might call it something a little bit different, but it's the same concept.
Or I started off with some sort of scenario that will spark their interest, and that's directly related to what the article is going to be about. So today we had a scenario about Cooper, which is my dog. So that always sparks their interest right away. It was about him playing fetch in the ocean versus in a pool. So that got them thinking, okay, why would he rather play in the ocean than a pool? And at first I don't expect them to get the answers correct. I want them to create a hypothesis and come up with a possible answer to that question. And it's okay if they're wrong. We talk about that all the time. Scientists are wrong. They ask questions, then they do research, and then they conduct experiments. And then at the end, they see if they were right, adjust their hypotheses, and come up with a conclusion. That led into a demonstration. Okay, so over here at sample A, what do we have? A glass of? Water. What kind of water? Fresh water. What do we see Tabitha doing over here at sample B, Ms. Booney?
Putting 3 spoons of sugar inside a cup.
3 spoons. Are you putting 3? How many are you putting in? 6. She's putting in 6 tablespoons of sugar. The reason I choose to do the demonstration beforehand is because it really sparks their interests. They're all engaged, they all want to be involved, come up and be a participant or a student scientist with me, and they start asking questions. Well, why are the grapes floating in this one and they're sinking in that one? Why does this glass look cloudier than that one? That got their wheels spinning a little more about the relationship between buoyancy and density, and how does that tie into the scenario that they originally were reading about in the.
Okay, so now we've seen that she's activated her students, and now she's actually doing a live demonstration to kind of get them questioning even more. Questioning is key here. So she's allowing them time to write down questions they have based on their observations. So if we were translating that into how we do science here in Cobb, it would be a phenomenon and then a live demonstration. And they're creating a guiding question board at the same time for both.
Do now. Then from there, we ask questions. What does this demonstration have anything to do with the topic? What does Cooper's scenario have anything to do with the topic? And they come up with questions together and on their own.
This reminds me of when we were doing the see, think, wonder, and the 2 guys they were inside. They were like laying on top of the
Dead Sea.
yeah.
Right? Good.
When we ask the questions, it like triggers something in our minds to get us like excited.
I would like to add on what Tanjani said about how when we were studying like buoyancy before, like when you did the experiment with the egg and you added the salt, I think this relates back with the grapes because I think you was trying to compare the two with sugar and salt if they like if the object that you put in the water can float or can sink.
Awesome. All right, I am loving what I'm hearing. These are fantastic. With reciprocal teaching, we start with predicting. They have the article, they just look at the titles, the subtitles, and the pictures, make their predictions on their own, then share them with their group. You're gonna have 2 minutes to make predictions, so you're looking at the prediction column in your graphic organizer.
I predict that this article will be about how you can use density all around and also what buoyancy is, because the title what is density and the title what is buoyancy and investigating with density and buoyancy.
I sort of agree with you because in the passage, if you look at the subtitle, it does said what is density and what is buoyancy. And one of the pictures in there is based on our back knowledge about density and buoyancy when we were doing in class.
Okay, so I love some.
Okay, so let's kind of recap what the teacher has done so far in her reciprocal teaching strategy. She started off with an activator and then went into a demonstration to evoke questioning for her students, and they wrote down their observation or questions based on their observations. And now she has introduced a text to her students, and they're just predicting. They have not read yet, but they're talking in their table groups and predicting what they think the article is going to be about based on the titles, the captions, and the images. I mean, just hearing these groups talk, I'm like, I wish I could get students to talk like this, right? This would be a perfect, I wonder how long they trained for this. But then after the students do the predicting and talking in their groups, then the teacher brings everyone back together to do the next step in reciprocal teaching.
From the predictions that I heard, I particularly heard something interesting at table 2 where they were connecting it to what we were talking about earlier today with Cooper trying to fetch the ball in the ocean versus trying to fetch the ball in the freshwater pool. So I love how we're making that connection between just looking at the titles and the pictures to a discussion we had a few hours ago. That's awesome.
Okay, so this is how we're gonna do it. I'm going first, Benjamin is second, and then Gianni's third, Tabitha is fourth, and Jaden is fifth. And the last paragraph, it has 5 sentences, so each of us are gonna read one sentence, so it's equal. I'm gonna go first. Crime scene investigation has developed since Sherlock Holmes's days.
Alright, I'll say that our hypothesis is about a crime scene. That's like a clue for us.
I think clarify helps me understand the most because when I get hard words, my group they help me find out like what the words mean, and I get to put my input on it and how I feel about the word and what I think it means. You said this connected with your hypothesis. What was your hypothesis?
My prediction was, what I predict is the article is going to be about the crime scene because when I analyzed the pictures, I saw the word crime scene and detective. That's how I know the article is going to be about a crime scene.
Another way of looking at it is materials with more density weigh more. Since a cup of jelly beans weighs more than a cup of marshmallows, it is more dense.
Fishbowl Moments is a way for me to model fabulous discussions that they're having, and I want the whole class to hear. So I walk around and I monitor the entire time that they're in the 20 minutes of doing the framework of reciprocal teaching. They came across a word that was foreign to them. They didn't understand it. So they stopped and they tried to figure out how they could clarify what it meant. Then, not only did they find the definition, but they figured out a way to put it in their
Has everyone else froze as well?
Yes, I am.
I am as well.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the presenter's frozen.
Well, I gotta run off to workouts anyway for sports. So y'all have a wonderful day. Take care. Yeah, it looks like
You
the
too.
presenter's frozen. Looks like she logged off, so probably trying to log back on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience with Alana's had a technical difficulty with her computer. She will be right back. So if you all hang on for just 1 second.
Does anyone remember signing up for this?
I just had that link appear in my Outlook, and I clicked on it like a good employee.
Me too.
So sorry, guys. So my computer flashed up a message. It said Windows will be shutting down at 3:43, and sure did. I'm really sorry about that. I'm just gonna pick up where I was, and I apologize for that. I'm gonna share my screen and keep going. We're almost done. Okay.
At table 5, everyone else, we're looking in on our little fishies at our fishbowl moment, respectfully and quietly. Okay? Action.
The foundational belief of forensic science is that a person always brings something to the crime scene and always leaves something. Often.
What happened next?
Wait, I found a word that I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but
Forensic?
yeah, is that?
In the text, it says the science that deals with crime investigation or science that is applied to law cases is called forensic science. I think I could put it in my own words by saying that it's science that detectives use to solve law cases.
Excellent. Silent round of applause for table 5. Very, very brave. Excellent. Found a word they didn't know, found the answer to what it meant within the text, and then were able to put it in their own words. That's fabulous. After that, we have a discussion about connections that they have. So we kind of tie it back to the beginning of the lesson. They connect what they've just read to the demonstration that they saw earlier, to Cooper's scenario or the See, Think, Wonder from the Do Now. Talk about what connections they make. Maybe they can answer some of the questions that they had. And then lastly, I have them write a conclusion.
So for a summary, we could put, to summarize, I will say, I forgot. What is it again?
There are many ways. There are many ways we could.
There are many ways density.
Yeah. So we're gonna start like that.
So what I want to point out to you is that, of course, these students have been doing this from day one in their school year, most likely. And this is probably near the end of the school year, and they're used to doing this strategy. And so they work really well together. I know this might be a stretch to just implement in your classroom right now at the end of the year, but done consistently and with fidelity, it can be a very useful strategy in your classroom. I'm going to fast forward just a little bit, and then we'll see how she wraps up reciprocal teaching in her science class.
You're looking at your annotations and you're answering our class-created questions. Make sure they're all answered. I know as you were discussing and reading, you found some of them and you might have answered some already, but we want them all to be answered in this 5 minutes, okay?
So let's look for question two. How are buoyancy and density related and how they're different? Oh, so I found we should look at what is density and what is buoyancy. I found the sugar and water that makes up the marshmallow will only fill the cup a little bit because marshmallows has less mass. And buoyancy, salt water has more mass or more stuff compact into the water.
I found that ever since I've implemented reciprocal reading, the students' discussions are much richer and they're able to therefore better comprehend the text. Density and buoyancy is a challenging concept for students to really understand. So by seeing the demonstration, putting a real life scenario at the beginning for them to really think about, and then diving into the article to pull the science out of it, they're understanding it. I like having them do the whole reciprocal reading framework by themselves because they have such awesome discussions together.
So question 3 is.
Okay, so let's talk about reciprocal teaching in science. When we utilize it with a three-dimensional framework. So when we're introducing a phenomenon, of course, we're having our students come up with questioning for questions, and we're putting that up on a guiding question board. And then we can do a live demonstration, or students can plan and carry out an investigation. And we can couple that with a science text where they're predicting what that concept might be about. And then as they're summarizing, they're constructing an explanation based on evidence from the demonstration and the phenomenon and what they're reading about. And then also they're teaching others about the reading and the phenomena when they ask clarifying questions. So it can be done several different ways. Reciprocal teaching in the science classroom. Version 1 is what she showed you. Everybody gets the same phenomenon. Reciprocal teaching happens in small group. And then version 2 takes a little bit more planning and figuring out how you can utilize the classroom to the fullest. But in this version, everybody gets a different phenomenon or a different article. And reciprocal teaching happens in small group, and the students can rotate through to get to the different readings, and they could all be about the same topic. Just reminders about phenomena. Remember, phenomena are observations, events, facts that can be investigated and explained using science. They lead students to plan and carry out investigations. We want phenomena to cause students to wonder and motivate them to ask questions, but phenomena are not questions, explanations, concepts, theories, or activities. I utilize these resources today. If you're not familiar with Brett Molding or Roger Bybee, they are two experts in the next generation of science standard and the gather, reasoning, and communicate instructional sequences. They were integral in developing three-dimensional framework and the new framework for science for K-12 science as well. So those are two great resources. If you don't have a copy of these, just let me know and I'll send you a copy. That is it for me today. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to stick around for just a little bit. Anybody have any pressing questions right now? Let me know. Otherwise, that's it for me today. Hopefully you can utilize reciprocal teaching in your science classroom maybe next year, or maybe try it before the end of the year. But with testing and everything like that, I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen. But at least you have a new strategy to try in your science classroom. All right, Martha, send me an email. All right, and I will get that. We have some extra copies laying around here. There's tons of lesson ideas and resources. All right, if you want a copy, just please email me with your name and school and I will get that sent. All right, guys, thanks so much. I'll see you guys later.